This was day 2 of President Obama's nomination of Sonia Sotomayor to join the Supreme Court, and today it became increasingly evident that the question about how the GOP should respond is pulling the Republican Party apart. On the one hand, there are the Republicans in the Senate who have largely taken a cautious wait-and-see approach, mindful that appearing to blast Sotomayor out of the starting gate could cause long-lasting problems with Hispanic voters. On the other hand, there are the conservatives who want the GOP to go into attack mode right away. That wing of the party is led by Rush Limbaugh. After calling Sotomayor a racist, today he hammered the media as well.
Who evolved this idiotic theory that opposing a judge on the basis of her incompetence, her lack of qualifications, and her judicial philosophy is going to harm the Republican Party because she's female and Hispanic?
Joining us to talk about the GOP civil war is David Corn, Washington bureau chief for Mother Jones Magazine and a blogger for CQPolitics.com. David, what do you make of what's going on in the Republican Party with this nomination?
They have a very tough decision to make. Now, you have conservative movement leaders, not just Rush Limbaugh, but people like Grover Norquist and Richard Viguerie, who is the founder of the modern conservative movement, all coming out and right away saying that she's not a good pick and looking for basically a crusade to derail her nomination. Now, the Senate Republicans, who would be in a position to do this for their base, have a very tough decision to make. Do they go with that base and start leading this opposition? If they do so, as you noted earlier, and as Rush Limbaugh has noted, they may put themselves in a position of alienating Hispanic voters and others. Look, Rush Limbaugh goes out there and calls Judge Sotomayor incompetent. On the basis of what? I mean, if she's been, she's had more experience, as Barack Obama in the White House has noted, than any other Supreme Court justice who's now sitting on the bench prior to their nomination as a federal judge. And you may not like her opinions, but no one is out there branding them incompetent and stupid. And so, if he wants to lead the charge then and have people, come to the conclusion he's only doing this because he thinks she's an idiot, not because there are any racial or female impulses, he's happy to do that. Republicans, though, in the Senate have to worry about getting elected, and they have to worry about the Hispanic vote, which once upon a time seemed to be within reach for the Republican Party. Remember, George W. Bush did pretty well with the Republican vote in Texas, and not so bad in his first bid for the presidency, his first election. But now, if they want to follow his lead and just bash away at the first Latina nominated to this position, they have to at least have pause. And right now, as far as I can tell, Republican senators are in that wait-and-see mode in which they could go either way. If more information emerges that will allow them to make a stronger case against her, they can go down that road. But if not, they may have to come up with some form of token oppositionism, which would get Rush Limbaugh mad, but will not tick off Hispanic and other American voters.
Here's the comment that is just driving so many people on the right crazy right now. This is what Sotomayor said in 2001 about Latina women. She wrote, "A wise Latina woman with the richness of her experiences would more often than not reach a better conclusion as a judge than a white male who hasn't lived that life." Jonah Goldberg responded on the National Review with this today, quote, "This is not only deeply offensive, it is also nonsense on stilts. Clarence Thomas understands what it is like to be poor and black better than any justice who has ever sat on the bench. How's that working out for liberals?" How is this debate going in the Republican Party? Do you see that more people are moving towards the Jonah Goldberg sort of attack mode, or just sort of pulling back right now?
Well, I think conservative pundits and activists are going to try to gin up as much outrage as they can over a few statements that she's made, and on the other side are decades of legal experience on the bench as a federal prosecutor. I'm pretty sure we'll hear pretty soon about all the bad criminals that she locked up or helped locked up once upon a time, and there's not a lot yet, I think, out there for Republican senators to latch onto. You can have one or two quotes and try to make a big deal out of that, but it's not a lot. So I think they need more if they're going to mount a case. The case against Clarence Thomas, the case against Robert Bork, you know, some of these big judicial battles we've had in the past, even the arguments against Alito and Justice Roberts, you know, were pretty extensive. Now, in the end, some failed and some got through, and we could argue what cases were good and what cases were bad against those particular nominations. But there was a lot out there in legal decisions, and sometimes it was extracurricular activities or lack of experience in the case of Justice Thomas's case. And, you know, there's something, I think, for the opponents to sink their teeth into. Right now, the Republican senators, who would be the ones to lead the charge, no one else can do this except them, you know, have sort of been very quiet. They are, you know, weighing, reviewing, and even, this was telling, Michael Steele, the Republican Party chairman, came out yesterday and said, I'm not rushing to any conclusions here. I want to review her record. I want to think about this some. I'm not like, you know, I'm not going to act like those Democrats did and come out and right away start an opposition. Now that put him at odds immediately with some people on the right, including, once again, Rush Limbaugh. So is he going to be able to hold that position, or at some point will he and the Republican senators have to tell their base, we're with you or we're against you when it comes to opposing this nominee?
David Korn, Washington bureau chief for Mother Jones Magazine, blogger for CQPolitics.com. So interesting to watch. And David, good of you to join us today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, David.